Hello again everybody, Mary Guyan and Darmody of Tipperary Studies here, and I'm out and about with Jimmy Duggan. Today we are going to do a little bit on industrial Thurles. Normally we would think of Thurles as a market town, but Jimmy, tell us about industry in Thurles.
Yes, Mary, well I suppose industry in the 19th century, in the 18th and 19th century, early 20th century is a far different cry from the high-tech or even the early kind of dirty industries, if you like, that involved a lot of machinery. We're along a very old road here actually. The old people would call it Limekiln Lane. Connects the pike and the quarry. Also called Gilchrist Lane because the manager of the Limekiln at one stage was a Mr. Gilchrist. The lime burner lived over in the quarry. Lime really important in life in the 18th and 19th centuries. First of all, it was important as a mortar for building. Yeah. And what it did was it actually reproduced the carbon cycle. So lime was burned in a castle-like structure, a rectangular structure like that with an arch at the bottom and a sandstone cylinder built inside it with one plug hole at the very bottom there in the arch. And that cylinder was filled with, a layer of wood, a layer of stone, and the stone generally would have to be kind of fist size. So stone would have to be quarried and broken by men sitting on straw bags all day long, breaking stone. Then the stone would be put into the cylinder, as you can see, a layer of stone, a layer of timber, a layer of stone, a layer of timber until the cylinder was full. Sometimes around Thurles actually, and particularly down around Mulnahone and that, they used column, which is anthracite slack, but mostly timber around here. And then the whole thing was set alight, and for 3 days and 3 nights it burned. And then when the lime burner saw a blue flame emerging from the top, he knew that his work was done, and that stone at this stage then, with that great heat, had been turned into powder called lime. So then the lime was mixed with sand and water, and from early medieval times used as a mortar for binding stone.
In buildings?
In buildings, yeah.
So it's kind of a precursor to cement.
It is, and if you use cement in these old buildings, the cement just cracks because the building can't breathe. So lime was really important. Then when the agricultural revolution came and they began to see that the cattle going into London market were much heavier than Irish cattle, and the amount of grains on the stalks right across the continent was much less in Ireland. They decided to improve agriculture, to add something to the soil, and what they added was lime. So that was another use of lime. Yeah. So, and of course they whitewashed houses with it. It was kind of an antiseptic. Whitewashed the vernacular houses, and they last for centuries. So this is, I see this as a really busy place. All the carts and everything else drawn up here, and of course, it wasn't very far away either from a really huge complex, the brewery. The brewery stretched from the joining of the V, in other words, where the pike meets the quarry, and back up really to the beginnings of St. Mary's Church.
Looking at the length of the wall, it's very long, so the site must have been very big.
It was huge, and another thing about it is that brewing and distilling were huge industries in Ireland. I mean, Father Matthew came to Thurles, and he gave the pledge to thousands. I'm not too sure of the number. Is it 14,000 in one day took the pledge? That is, not to drink alcohol anymore. And people used to drink whiskey by the quart or the pint. There's very little left of the brewery today, but this archway in many ways shows us the different traditions of achievement of freedom, because the agent to Valentine Mars estate, which is based in the golf club, was shot at that very arch, and nobody was ever convicted of it.
Yes, violence would have played a big part in Thurles and surrounding areas, all right.
Very much so.
Yeah.
The other side to the violence, of course, is the great peaceful movement of Daniel O'Connell that succeeded in, for the very first time, politicising the masses and harnessing that power to win Catholic emancipation and not be too far away either from repeal of the Union.
Daniel O'Connell visited Thurles on a couple of occasions.
He did. He visited when St. Patrick's College was opened.
1838?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Lizzie Hayes, Lizzie Hayes from Boyton's Hotel or the Star and Garter or whatever it was, cooked the meal and brought it down, and he gave a great speech. But he also had separate fundraising events, just as we have today. You know,
yes.
The tradition of the Fianna Fáil dinner, that was going on as well in Daniel O'Connell's time. And he had here, right at this spot where the Palatine College is, in Smee's corn store, had a huge fundraiser, and nothing remains of the corn store today, but this commemorative plaque here. Now, Smees are a really important family, and an interesting family in Thurles, and who have contributed so much to the sporting life in Thurles, because they've sold a lot of their land to the GAA for Morris Park. They've sold land for the Gaelscoil. They've been a presence in Thurles now for many, many years. And they originally, of course, were Palatines. These families that had to leave their land on the banks of the Rhine and come initially to Limerick and then to Kilcooley, where the Barker estate invited them up and showed them the hills of Bonry and said, there's your land, and they turned it into some of the best agricultural land we have in Tipperary.
Yes.
So the Palatines were one of the very early foreign settlers in Tipperary, and Smees are
part of that. And the name Smee is still in town.
Oh, it's very much so, yeah. Very much so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they have made a huge contribution to Thurles. So we can imagine, you know, the corn store, there was a tannery just down the road, there's the lime kiln, there's the brewery, on the far side of the quarry there are saddlers, where the two streets meet there's a forge, and you begin to get the picture of busy
town.
Thurles in this area. When the Munster Hotel, then the excavations for the Munster Hotel were conducted, the archaeologist, he found there a whole evidence of artisan Thurles or industrial Thurles, particularly basket work, basketry, because the island and the shore there between the Ursuline and the town was the ogery of the town.
I remember seeing ogery on the map, all right.
And therefore it was a managed willow cultivation place for baskets. It's very difficult to get the scale of these industries. Carts with 20 stone sacks of wheat that men had to lift up from ladders and into breweries and mills and so on. There was a malting house at the other end of the town, where Ardna Crusha is, opposite Ardna Crusha. When Coolmore bought the Carrigan's estate there, you know, they came across the great well-like structure where the barley was soaked first and then laid out on these huge floors with louvered windows and allowed to sprout for a number of days and then gather together again, and then to make the malt for the brewery, which was probably then transferred down to the brewery we're speaking about here.
Jimmy,
all right,
thank you for that side of Thurles.
All right, Mary, thank you very much.